Greetings, Sir and Sirettes, and welcome back to Terratech with me, Lathrix, and of course, welcome back to the Salt Flats, in which we're going to be building a whole host of new vehicles today. In today's episode, we are going to be building some drone vehicles, some vehicles completely controlled by their respective AI to follow us along in our Hawkeye tank. So what I'm going to be doing is building one vehicle for each of the other factions, so one for Venture, one for the Geocorp, and one for the GSO, each of them having some unique properties which should make them at least semi-useful following us around. Now before we start, I am under no illusion that right now these are a little bit buggy, and when it comes to AIs trying to follow you, they tend to get stuck on things a lot, they tend to simply stop following you for no apparent reason, and sometimes they cause ungodly amounts of lag. It's certainly very, very odd, but hopefully it's going to be a fun experience, and as long as we stick to the area around us, which is constantly spawning in new enemies, we can certainly probably be fairly safe away from the bugs. So let's get started and let's build the GSO first. Like I say, each of these is going to have a unique role in our little party. So I was waiting until dawn to start doing all the building work so we can actually see what we're doing, and I got a little bit bored, and the result, oh wow, is this thing. A really quick, really weird little unicycle. Yep, this is the fruit of my labours so far. And apparently that enemy's getting way too close for us. Oh look, my little guard's trying to fight! Oh, you both tried, but come on, come home to daddy, it's okay. The bad one's dead. Or at least will be in a second. There we go, now come home. Come on, you can do it. Soon. And so day has finally broke, so we can start building. The very first we are going to build is the GSO craft, and for this, I think we're going to try and spam the GSO megaton cannons, possibly using a minimum of 6 of them, and perhaps a maximum of something like 9. So ideally, it should be a little bit bigger to what I've already built, so perhaps adding some of these here as well. And that will probably be big enough. Yes, I think I'm going to stick to this, and then we're going to go ahead and spam one of the wheel types I've not really used before. This is the GSO hub wheel. It's sturdy and apparently rather quick, but since I've not really tested them out much, other than on a certain pogo build a moment ago before dawn had fully broke, I think it's a good time to test them out now. Since we're only using GSO blocks, it does, however, mean this is going to be quite a vulnerable craft. It probably won't be able to take too much damage, and sadly, you can't program the AI in this game to do certain actions. For instance, stay as far away as possible as long as you're in range. So it very well may end up running into the enemy and then instantly being crushed, but we'll just find out that as we go. Okay, so how does this turn? Absolutely fine, and speed-wise, actually surprisingly good. Yep, that's absolutely reasonable. Of course, the turning is being slightly impeded by having these wheels so inside along with outside, but that does give us a lot of redundancy to make sure this craft can continue to move. And because we have such a large base on the bottom, we can go ahead and add some of these batteries. Now normally I would add some of the Geocorp batteries, but as much as possible I would like to stick to the faction blocks of the faction vehicle I'm making, just to make sure the theme stays nice and strong. Okay, so let's fill all this up. It's going to be quite heavy, so I'm hoping these wheels can take quite a large load and not be completely encumbered. First 2 cannons are down, and I'm quickly realising just how big these things actually are. And also, we've kind of made a weird moustached face. It looks creepy, actually. The more I look at it, the more it's slightly disturbing me. Either way though, the cannons work, and that's always good. So the next layer of cannons can probably just go straight behind it, I imagine. Yet they can fire directly forwards, although they can't fire very much down, so if something's very close to us, perhaps that might be a bit of an issue, or if we're trying to fire down a mountain. On the upside, this does make a pretty good broadside position, so that shouldn't be too bad at all. And I also have all these lovely armor blocks to test out, so hopefully, by the end of this, this won't be a particularly vulnerable craft. Also, I want mirror mode, is that so wrong? And we definitely need more of these. Oh, or maybe not. What a perfect amount. And then we simply add one of these here. Oh, can that not go where I want it to go? That would be really annoying if that's the case. We can put it like that. That's not exactly how I wanted it, but that's okay. And yes, that looks like a gazelle in the background. It's very weird. And we will eventually be killing it. Shields have been placed, and honestly, it's looking okay. It's not looking like the worst craft in the world. It's not looking like the best craft in the world, certainly, but at least it looks like it's going with a theme. So, should I have any guns or anything down the middle? Perhaps the mini mortars, perhaps some lasers, or perhaps the simple pound cannons to provide a bit of extra fire support. Since we're going for long range, I don't think the mortar is going to be particularly good, but the pound cannons do have a deceptively long range, so what I think I'll do is move all these away, and since the AI will likely try to get this vehicle to be constantly looking at the enemy anyway, let's just build up along with the rest of the craft. This also gives me an excuse to add some more blocks down the middle for a bit more protection for the batteries. Like so, and then we simply build up yet again. Let's go with a 2 here. And there we have it, quite a fair bit of fire support. Oh yeah, that's going to really hurt pretty much anything. And it's quite a small craft, or at least it is so far. So for the back section, what are we going to do there? There's quite a few things we can do, but I think for now, just armoring it up a little bit more, or perhaps adding some extra megaton cannons, just for a broadside and just to be there for redundancy, would likely be the best idea. So let's go ahead and add those like so. Don't really want to go any higher, and shall I add 2 more at the back? Maybe these can face backwards or sideways. Okay, don't really want to go any higher though. Like that. Okay, now this is pretty heavy. How goes turning on the spot? Turning on the spot has been massively compromised, but turning when moving is absolutely fine, and that is a lot of cannons in a very small space, and we're not yet finished with armoring this thing up, so let's go ahead and add armor absolutely everywhere. It's our little mini GSO tank. And when we're done, we can replace the AI I currently have with the little AI currently trying to guard us. Isn't it adorable? Eventually, you will be this. Add some more of these to the front, because honestly they just look really cool, even though they are meant for the cab, except for this one, which I think I'll just add a corner to instead. No I won't, that looks utterly dreadful, even by my standards. And, well, this is my standard, so here we are. How do I do the back? Oh, I don't really want to add anything more to the back, so I think I'll just go with armor instead, just to give it a nice slope, which means I need to purchase more of these slopes. And so, let's put in our new AI straight into the craft and say goodbye to our old one. There we are. Guard me! Come on, follow me. Let's see if you will actually follow me. That would be glorious to see. Turning, yes, now go forwards. Excellent. I'm actually quite fond of how this has turned out. It's not a beautiful craft, but it's so simplistic and so drone-looking. I'm actually really, really happy with it. It's simply a gun bed, but a gun bed I am very, very happy with. Is this symmetrical? It looks like it is. Armor blocks pretty much everywhere. Yeah, that's going to take a serious beating before dying, especially with its power reserve and its shields. So next, let's do the weird option. Let's do the venture, and let's see how bizarre we can actually build this. So once again, I'm going to just build this on this AI so I know what I'm doing, and then I will continue. And of course, by AI, I mean this cab. There's a problem. I just have to remember that this thing only has a connection point on its back and on its undercarriage. Okay, go and play. Eventually doing the smart thing and just spawning in one of the Venture pods instead, so let's build ourselves the next little drone, which will be the Venture vehicle. So with this, it's got to be something silly. It really has to be something a little bit silly looking, not quite as functional as the GSO, but certainly a lot more fun. So what if we try and go with an upright, actual drone-looking thing? Something which looks almost like an android, a robot, something which looks like it could be alive, or something very weird indeed. Actually, change that, have those going to the side instead, because sadly there's only 4 connection points on these things. Yep, like that, then one here, one here. Then on the back, we can have the very small batteries from Venture itself. Now, these don't hold much power, so these are going to need to be replenished constantly, but at least it does look more Venture-y. Actually, then, what we could do is putting this, like... Oh, no! That doesn't have a connection point on the top. Oh, okay, so it only has one connection point there. That's a little bit more annoying, but it's fine. It just means we have to be a bit more creative as we go. And now we are going to use one of the GSO blocks, just because the GSO shield bubble is much bigger than the Venture version. So sadly that is just something we're going to have to deal with. Then one goes down like this. Okay, once again accidentally placing things the wrong way around. Thank you. And I may have to go into the GSO yet again, a little bit far here, a few too many GSO pieces, but I think it will be worth it in the end. So, it can stay upright, that's a good sign, right? Back into the regular blocks, and let's go to Venture again, back to these lovely brackets. Now, I want this to be simple, because the idea I've got in my head is a very cheap, very easy to replace bit of machinery. Like that. Yeah, that's completely reasonable. And then if we go into the flight blocks, we can once again use the steering hovers in order to steer us around. Actually, we could have them like this. And that actually matches pretty well with the hover behind it. The... what's this called? The gyroscope. Okay, turns fine. Oh, please don't tip over too much. Okay. That's actually okay. If we shoot, let's see what the recoil's like. Pretty bad, pretty bad. A lot of lag at the moment because of everything going on around here. I think I'm going to have to move from this place somewhere else in the future. And right now, what we need to do is lessen the amount of electrical effects going on, because that is really causing problems. Somewhat tempted to scrap the plane, because we can always repurchase them now. That would also reduce lag, just removing how many CPUs we have around here. I mean, either way, this one does work. It turns on the spot pretty well, and as long as it has constant battery power, it should be surprisingly okay in terms of survivability, because it has a shield, and shields are cool. Although, if anything does splash damage, this thing simply dies. Oh god, look how rocky that is. But I do like it. It's nice, it's simple, and it's very, very cheap. Although, is there a better weapon we could use? Because these aren't all that powerful. Oh well, too bad. And there goes the head of the darn thing. Put that in its place. Oh, that actually looks better, okay. And then attach this to the back section. Swap over to one of the other vehicles for a second, and... follow me, oh weird drone. Will you work? Come on. You can do it. Okay, the turning is too much. That's the problem there. It keeps on turning to try and move towards me, but it oversteers. So, let's lessen the amount of turning. Remove the front two, like so. How about now? Oh god, this thing. Look at that. It looks so drunk. It looks so drunk. Oh, mate, you shouldn't be drinking when you're on duty the next day. Oh, it is kind of cool that it limps sadly towards you, but it's not going to be all that effective. Oh, that is terrible. Okay, that needs a bit... it needs a bit of work. I still think lowering the turning speed even further might help. Okay, let's do that just so I can get on to the tech itself. Okay, let's just put... Okay, that just looks silly having that on the front, but let's see, maybe on the bottom like that. Let's see if this works out. That should significantly lower the turning. Yeah, the turning right now is actually... Ooh. There's a problem. Having it on there actually sends it forward slightly. But let's just figure out, let's see if this works okay. Put this back to where it was. And please, would you kindly guard me? It's turning towards me. Oh, look, there it is. It is following me. Okay, that is actually the better option. Really slow, sluggish turning wins the day when it comes to weird pogo unicycle android things. Maybe a little bit more work is still needed. After a fair bit more testing, it really does seem like if we're going to go for this really small, silly type of build, having the slower turn rate is a lot more reliable. Also, I did just destroy the plane, and a lot of the lag went away instantly. Having so many shield bubbles also seems to cause quite a bit of lag. Okay, let's move you with me. Yeah, okay, that's fine. You can follow me at a decent speed. Every time you get too close, you stop, which is kind of hilarious to watch, but I think you will function just fine. But what I want to do very quickly is just replace that head for a moment, so that I can quickly screenshot you and call you Derptron 1. There we go. The start of the AI revolution. Quickly to be replaced by many, many other models, I'm sure. Eventually I'll make a much larger version of this, which can turn at a decent rate, but for now, considering I am already starting to run out of time, that will do. That will do, Derptron. And so we move on to our final one, which actually should be quite easy, the Geocorp, which is going to be a giant battery pack able to power the other two defenders. And of course our tank itself. And so we move on to the final build of the day, the Geocorp Battery Holder Drone. The vehicle which is simply going to carry with it a lot of power for the rest of the group. This way we should always have shields available to us, even if the Geocorp vehicle itself probably won't be too heavily armed. I don't really want to go too over the top with these builds, because I want to be able to replace them if they glitch out, if they randomly die, or if just random problems occur. I want to be able to purchase them again without any major cost, with the GSO one being a bit of an exception there. The drone though, the little drone android we have over there, the Derptron, turns out it only costs 6,000 bucks, which means it can be made over and over again very, very easily. In fact, I could make over 20 right now, and at some point we are going to build a drone army, perhaps with one general, which will be larger than that one. Anyway, with that waffle out of the way, let's get building the Geocorp. So this shouldn't be too complex. Ultimately, I just want it to hold a lot of batteries, but of course we do want the batteries to be rather safe. So what I think I'm going to do is have all of the batteries in the center in a bit of a spinal column, and then maybe that will be the best way. And yes, I did forget that the Geocorp cab does not have connection points on the front. So how about we have it like this, then we put it back like it was, like so. Like so, we just carry on back like this, all the way, and then maybe extend it a little bit on the sides. This way, there'll be quite a bit of protection for these batteries. Now, thankfully, the Geocorp batteries can hold a lot per one, so really, we don't need more than maybe 6 on the entire vehicle to make it very, very long-lasting. Our old Geocorp vehicle, which was quite some time ago when we actually used it properly, only had 3 of them, and that lasted ages. So there we are, there's the spine, 6 of them. We'll see how long this lasts. If we need more, then we simply add more. This should be quite a simple build. Let's do that, and then add 2 more of these here and here, in which we'll add the wheels. Now what we could do is go down the route of Hawkeye and add a couple of tank tracks, at least to the front. This would give it a bit of a different aesthetic to what we've been doing so far, but I don't think it's a particularly good one. They look really, really small when you add them, although We could always put them on the bottom like this instead, then that way this has a lot of ground clearance. The chance of this being stuck on anything is actually incredibly minor. So, let's do that, and how's that turning? That is surprisingly good for something so heavy. And it's pretty quick as well. It's definitely better than the Geocorp Big Boy wheels. And this would also mean we could actually armor up the sides. Wait, does that actually work? We could do this. Have the tracks as a bit of a backup. I don't think the tracks are actually getting any ground right now, but it would make an interesting backup. Although, I kind of just want to go with the Geocorp stuff, making it more within the theme of the actual, well, Geocorp stuff. I've also now just realised I kind of want an AI-controlled hovercraft. May do that in the future, although with the extreme sharp turning circle, that may be a little bit difficult. We'll see how it goes in the future. Now, do I want to put some on the sides here? This could actually be a negative for the build. Yeah, the turning is a little bit affected with them being in such a bad place, but it does give a lot of redundancy, and it looks pretty nice. So let's stick with that, and now let's armor up the front. Let's do something interesting with the front, and make it all look nice and tidy. And should I add more batteries? I am still tempted to add some more. I think this is the shape we're going to stick with, at least with the base of the vehicle. It's nice, it's simple, it turns easily, and it's relatively easy to defend. So now, all we need to do is add ourselves a load of the wireless chargers, armor up the front, armor up the top, and then maybe add some weaponry. Here's a question. If I put the AI module onto this craft, but also leave the regular cab, if I then leave this vehicle in terms of its control, will I be able to allow this to go under the AI's control? So here we go, we're now in the tank. Can this guy guard us? Yes, it can. Okay, now that's interesting. So like I was saying before, I don't want this vehicle in combat. This vehicle is going to go into idle before we go into fights, and then we simply go back to it afterwards in order to replenish our power stock, so we don't need to keep on putting down our own little power stations. So, having the ability to actually manually position it, and of course manually use its repair bubble, is going to be really, really helpful, especially for bots like this one, which doesn't have its own repair bubble, but only uses shields. Okay, I'm actually really happy with how this one's turning out. It's certainly not very attractive, but in terms of functionality, which let's face it, I think people realise is what I'm normally after in this game, I'm very, very pleased. Also, we can have a broadside of the megaton cannons, which is just going to be fun because I haven't really made a broadsiding vehicle yet, or at least a dedicated broadsiding vehicle, I should say. Okay, at this stage, I think it's safe to say we're pretty much done with our 3 vehicles. We have the broadsiding Geocorp vehicle here, with only one thing left to do, which I wanted to do on camera. We have our little tiny venture drone, we have our GSO long-range artillery, and of course we have our main vehicle, which apparently is called Auto Snapshot, even though I'm fairly certain I did save it as tank, at least at some point, although that may have been way too far away in the past. So all we need to do is finish off the front of this craft, add the wireless chargers, and then we can transfer power from this vehicle to all of the others. I'm still tempted to add some more batteries, and I may do that here and here, but that will make us far more vulnerable as well, because of course the batteries are explosive. And yes, I totally meant to throw that far into the air. I mean, it would have been cool if that was intentional, it must be said, but still. Okay, where is the thing I just threw absolutely miles away? There it is, lovely. Let's put that back where it belongs to armor up the side here, and that's actually okay. Maybe I should armor up the top as well, just to make sure a stray bullet won't instantly detonate this entire craft. Now, thankfully, this one is unique in terms of our drone craft, in that I have so much spare scrap and spare Geocorp stuff, I can simply make this back at any stage for free, because we have all of the stuff required to build it over and over again, with no real issues. Maybe having to swap a few of the more silly things like this fence I've made, but other than that, pretty much nothing. So, how many of the power section do I have? Okay, now we could put these down the middle, or we could put them along the front. have it like a little row here and then try to make that stylized. I think that would be better, because then we could use these little posts again, like we have been, to make it look all official and nice. Well, at least this vehicle is fairly luminescent, although I have been told that the lights can cause a fair bit of lag in the game, mostly because of the shadows, and right now, I'm trying to avoid any real major source of lag because the game is getting harder and harder to run, and it's becoming more and more difficult to record videos. Eventually, we will just have to abandon this area, find a new area with no spawns, and then slowly allow the lag to creep up yet again. It won't be too difficult, thankfully, since we are going to be rebuilding our base very soon with a finalised version of the scrapper system and a finalised version of the resource harvester, so everything will be done again soon, and I kind of want to find one of the ruins out in the desert, so that will be very nice indeed, as people have also told me that the spawns on the salt flats are actually incredibly high, and considering how many enemies are here at any given time, that certainly seems like the case. Now, the front is still really boring, but I have almost finished it. I've added the charges to the side and the front like so, because they're very, very pretty in my opinion. So now all I need to do is round off the front a little bit more, and then we are all done and ready to go. And I will resist just adding bike wheels, because I keep on doing that to almost every build at the moment. Okay, I think for now this is it. I am running out of time for the day, and honestly, I'm not overly keen on the GeoCorp vehicle, but it certainly looks better than the one we were using quite some time ago in the early episodes of Terratech. So before I run out of time, I would really like to test out all of these vehicles, so I'm going to go back over to the recharge station, fully recharge this vehicle, and then allow all of them to be controlled by the tank. I have purposefully left out shields from this vehicle, so the overall energy drain is pretty low. It's only constantly charging the GeoCorp repair bubble. And I am somewhat tempted to remove this and put that there instead, but the problem is then, the repair bubble doesn't go quite as far away from the main structure. Also, am I powering that back up as well? That's really weird. It's powering up us, and then we're powering that back up with our power supply. What? No, go away. That's enough. That's enough. This may be a problem. Is there any way to avoid that? We have lower battery, so surely we should be the one being charged here. But if you look here, there's clearly power leaving our wireless chargers. That's really weird. Is that how it works? I didn't even know that. Maybe I shouldn't have these here as well, because that's going to get in the way of the battery every time I'm trying to look at something. No, it is going up slowly. Okay, so once we're fully charged, I'll send away, and we can do some fighting against some of the more innocent-looking enemies, which is only one or two. One last major change before we go ahead and test out our lovely drones is that I've added the tank treads from Hawkeye to the GSO vehicle. The reason being is that it was taking so long to turn, it was getting a little bit silly. We've made it incredibly heavy, so using the GSO wheels, even if they were better positioned, just wasn't an option. But I have left the wheels still attached for two reasons. First of all, they are actually pretty good in terms of health, and second of all, if the tank treads are ever destroyed, they are still there in order to control the vehicle. So a little bit of redundancy to make everything a little bit easier. So, let's go ahead and charge up our tank at our portable charging station, and then let's get testing against one of the single enemies. Go forth, android, and defend me! Yes, the android is actually working. It's working absolutely fine. It's even turning to face the enemy while it's trying to shoot. All is going absolutely fantastically. Very, very slowly, though. Perhaps I should swap its weapon for missiles. That would really make sense for its slow turning rate, but it is slowly winning. I'm trying to stay away from this fight, but it keeps on aggroing on me. Come on, tiny little crappy droid. You can do it. I know you're mostly here just for looks and being incredibly cheap so I can keep on remaking you, but I sort of believe in you. I don't believe in you anymore. Goodbye, enemy. Well, there it is, getting the killing blow. It tried. It certainly tried, and it did okay, but I think it needs is to have a regular turret on the top instead, so it can fire all around, instead of needing to constantly turn. So although it looks better as it was, let's add that back, actually the block I just dropped. flip it round like so, and then have a small gun on the top, just to make sure it can fire all the way around, even if it's just something like that. Looks a bit odd, but at least now it can fire in a 360 arc nice and easily. An enemy has just spawned over here, so now it's time to test out the GSO vehicle. So this one should be a lot less silly and probably a lot more effective. It has megaton cannons and, oh, it can actually turn correctly. I believe in you! This time I'm actually being serious, I do actually believe in this one. Gyro tank. Okay. Yes, that's it. Tear it apart, my minion. There we go, perfect. Yeah, this one will do fine. Okay, so you are absolutely fine. You work perfectly. Now, when it comes to our little robot over there, I think I'm going to go into the R&D mode, the research and development mode, and I'm going to do a bit of practice getting one of these to work a little bit more reliably. It's very fun. I love how it looks. I think I've done a good job making it look simplistic and nice and very robot-like, but I need to figure out a better way to allow it to turn. Maybe making it into a hover would be better. Either way, though, I am afraid, for now, I am all out of time for today's episode, so if you have enjoyed, then of course, likes, favourites, shares, comments, all that good stuff helps out me, helps out the channel, and most importantly, shows that Terratech is a series you would like to see continued in the future. The next episode, I very well may be in the research and development mode, messing around with designs like this, where there's far less lag. So thank you for watching, and goodbye.